Yun. Magandang hapon po mga kameta. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Medyo matagal na since nag-live tayo na ganito na matinong usapan. Almost 3 days na. Of course, kahapon, almost wala tayong meta. But of course, biglang may developments na nangyari. Nakita natin na, nung nakita ko yung pictures na in handcuff, si former Congressman Walden Bello, na ating professor din dati sa UP among others. Of course, sabi ko, dapat dumalo tayo dyan sa estasyon, police station to also get yung side nila. Now, as you can see clearly dun sa disclaimer natin, yung mga views and expressed in those interviews are the views of the people interviewed. So, I said separately, lalabas ko yung sarili kong take sa situation na yan. Of course, I've posted a number of things among others. Hinihintay ko rin, of course, yung mga response ng mga other parties. Of course, especially si Vice President Sara Duterte because, of course, certain things were mentioned vis-a-vis her. So, gladly we have a clear statement from the Vice President making it crystal clear that I have never shared, never nag-file siya ng libel case in her entire life. And she has nothing to do with the situation going on as far as Congressman Walden Bello is concerned because there were accusations that perhaps, some higher officials were involved behind this case. Also, technically speaking, of course, in fairness to Vice President Sara Duterte, she was not a complainant, etc. So, yun lang, just to be clear, so in the interest of objectivity, we have to make sure different sides, no, say their piece. So, kaya nga sabi ko, hintayin natin muna para may statement din from different parties. Now, hintayin din natin yung mga statements siguro kung magkakaroon pang statements from the parties behind these libel cases, cyber libel cases. But in the meantime, at least we saw a very clear, and categorical denial by Vice President Sara Duterte that she has nothing to do with what's happening whatsoever. No. Now, of course, dapat kailangan natin following situation ni former Congressman Walden Bello, Professor Bello, in terms of ano mangyari sa kaso niya. Will it be pushed dun sa RTC case sa Davao? Will the court case be there? Will it be moved somewhere else? How far this case is going to progress, etc. So nothing, guys, nothing is final here pa, no? So we're still following this developing story. Kaya nga sabi ko, whatever we're doing here is not necessarily a reflection of my point of view. Nakakataon lang, of course, live to mga interviews natin, talagang FB live. So, people are free to say what they want. But as far as I'm concerned, my take is that we have to give all parties, due platform and credit, and we have to wait by yung statements ng different parties. So kanina nagkaroon tayo ng clear statement from Vice President Sara Duterte na sabi niya she has nothing to do with this case at that never in her life has she filed libel case against anyone despite any disagreements, etc. So may mga longer statements din nakita natin na lumabas. So, of course, I have to double check everything. Nakita natin itong infographics also. I've seen a copy of the statement. I have to double check it itself. Let me check it on the Twitter ni Inday Sara. Yeah, kasi talagang ingat na ingat tayo dito to make sure we're fair, diba? To all parties involved. Ang dami guys, ang daming disinformation, ang daming mga ito. Okay, so hindi ko nakikita dito sa Twitter ni Inday Sara. Ito kasi po yung Twitter niya, chine-check natin, verified account niya. So, I don't see the statement here. Pero, yun ang mga nakikita natin, iba't ibang statements dyan. Ito. This is a different case, no? Okay, so it's a different one. So, but base doon sa mga nakita natin is sinasabi ni Vice President na as far as possible, as far as she's concerned, she has nothing to do with this case. So let's see more statements coming out from different sides. Tignan din natin ang mga statements from Attorney Luke Espiritu, who's in charge. He's the lead counsel of Professor Walden Bello, former Congressman Walden Bello. Of course, nagkataon, nandun rin si Calyodi kagabi dun sa presinto. So nakausap din natin si Calyodi kung ano yung stance niya dito sa sitwasyon and where does he see the opposition going. Alright, so Yun lang, alright? So, wag, ano, relax lang kayo dyan. Wag tayo masyadong, jumping the gun and, jumping to conclusion, etc. Kasi nakita ko kahapon, grabe yung mga comments, Guys, wag naman bastusan, guys. We are adults here. We're trying to be as fair as possible, right? I mean, I would have loved to be able to interview all parties involved in every major issues. So there's logistics involved. May mga tao na mas mahirap na kausapin, may mga tao mas madaling kausapin. So I'm just trying my best here, guys, to provide to you guys, no? Libre lang naman eh. You just watch me on Facebook, andyan na kaagad. May analysis, may updates, minsan live interviews, etc. By the way, nag-organize din tayo ng mga interviews with a number of celebrities among others who are politically oriented and may political consciousness. So, shout out naman dyan sa mga parating na soon. So, we're trying to organize that. As you can imagine, I'm in the middle of so many things. So, I'm still trying to keep on top of the situations at Taiwan. Also, the situation in Ukraine. So, sabi ko nga, soon, God willing, I will be reporting closer to the situation to Ukraine on the latest development naman sa Europe. So, ang dami natin mga logistical issues na inaayos because ang dami natin gagawin. Of course, I will be also on travels and talks across Asia, hopefully in the coming weeks and months. So, we'll also have updates from other countries. No? So, don't worry about that. Now, Taiwan will be out of my itinerary for now because nakikita natin na yung situation sa Taiwan ay medyo alanganin. Dahil nga, sinabi natin, yung mga exercises na nangyari ngayon sa Taiwan ay are very, very disconcerting. And some people are saying, this is more than muscle flexing by China. Mukhang ginagawa ng China dito is pinapakita niya, no? Na pinapakita talaga ng China na kayang-kaya niya mag-conduct ng what you call multi-domain operations. Ibig sabihin, simultaneously China po ay pwede mag-operate ng kanyang Air Force, kanyang land forces, kanyang naval forces, or amphibious forces for that matter, for a potential invasion of Taiwan. Not today, not tomorrow, not this year, maybe not next year or the next 5 years, but sometime in the future. No? So, ngayon, this looks like not only a retaliation by China, but also demonstration and practice and exercise, literally exercise, of potentially what it could look like kung talagang sumugod na talagang China all the way dyan sa Taiwan. So that's why we are watching very carefully, guys. We are watching very carefully itong situation sa Taiwan because it provides us some clues into how prepared is the Chinese military, how effective are they in terms of ayan na kasi may mga na-distract na naman tayo dyan eh. In terms of multi-domain operations, as I said, yung multi-domain operations po ay mahirap talaga dahil nakita natin in the case of Ukraine, for instance, yung Russia ay nahirapan mag-coordinate ng kanyang land, air, and naval operations. Kaya ang daming gaps na nakita natin dyan. No? So in the case of Taiwan, let's see if China can demonstrate a more effective multi-domain kasi high level of communications, high level of coordination, right? Ang kailangan, high level of trust and confidence and interoperability among different branches of the People's Liberation Army ang kailangan to pull off a very complicated invasion, which is what really China needs in order to have any chance of really piercing through yung defenses ng Taiwan. Kasi nga, sabi natin ng Taiwan po ay hindi basta-basta lang. Maliit siyang bansa kumpara sa China, but it has one of the most developed, advanced, and multi-layered defensive strategies anywhere in the world. And the idea there is that if Taiwan can hold back Chinese invasion for, let's say, a day or two, that might give just enough time for the US, Australia, Japan, and other countries to intervene in behalf of Taiwan. So ang usapan rin kasi dito is not that Taiwan can beat China and that Taiwan can forever hold back China if ever a full invasion is going to happen. But ang idea dyan is that if Taiwan can hold China back for long enough, let's say a window of 48 hours to 72 hours, then that might be just enough for America to intervene in its behalf by deploying forces from, whether it's from Japan, whether it's forces from Guam, or mga other forces rotating through the Philippines, Malacca Straits, etc. No? So yung mga 7th Fleet, yung mga ganun, ng US Navy, among others. So we're watching it very carefully because dito natin nakikita yung kakayahan talaga ng China, yung demonstration ng kanilang capacity. So this is more than just looking at Taiwan and how far China is willing to go. But this is also looking at yung capacity, capability, preparation, at modernization of China's armed forces. Kasi guys, the last time na sumugod ang China sa ibang bansa, that was really in 1979 laban sa Vietnam, and guess what? Na-humiliate ng China doon. Yung maliit na bansa ng Vietnam na kinalaban niya yung US for decades, kinalaban yung mga French for decades, no? Etong Vietnam was able to beat back the Chinese during the 1979 war. So please check that on yourself para you have an idea. So since then, really, especially since the mid-1980s, China has been trying to make sure na hindi sila maging paper tiger, na malakas lang on paper, but operationally speaking weak. I mean, if you look at Russia, it showed a lot of vulnerabilities during its invasion of Ukraine. Kaya some would call Russia a paper bear. Now, I won't be as dismissive, but clearly, dapat hindi tayo ma-impress kaagad sa isang bansa dahil malaki lang yung kanilang army or marami silang armas. It's way more than that. It's not just having hardware, but having also the right software, the coordination, the cooperation, everything that is needed for an effective invasion, right? If ever it really goes down to that. Of course, we're all hoping na hindi mangyari yan. Now, as you may know, over the weekend, of course, nag-meeting din si Secretary Blinken ng United States at si President Marcos Jr. So that was very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting yun. Because in that meeting, we saw how comfortable President Marcos is in dealing with the United States, and how United States under the Biden administration and Democratic administration seems to be also very comfortable and confident in dealing with the Marcos administration. I think President Marcos has also made it very clear that, he's not here to pick a fight with the Americans. He's not here to threaten our alliance with them. He's not here to insult them, etc. He's here to make sure na we get the most out of our alliance from the Americans, and that the Americans have to offer something good. And in exchange, if America is a reliable partner, we'll also try to do our part. Now, without categorical prejudice to China. So, ito po yung articles na pinost ko kanina. Umagang-umaga pa lang, pinost ko na yan. So, paki-check yan, guys. So, ito yung article natin kanina. Paki-check yan. Doon natin in-explain yung mga nitty-gritties. Of course, kailangan natin malaman in the coming weeks and months dahil nag-agree na yung dalawang panig na magkaroon ng further meetings. Potentially, magbibisita si President Marcos sa America, sa White House. The first visit by the Philippine head of state in almost 10 years, almost a decade. When was the last time Aquino was there in the White House? I mean, official White House visit, hindi lang yung nasa America, no? That was like almost 10 years ago, di ba? The other thing is magkakaroon ng 2+2 meetings. So yung defense and foreign minister natin magkakaroon ng meeting with their American counterparts, with Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary Anthony Blinken. So potentially this will happen also in Washington, D.C. early next year. No? So may announcement na ganito. Gusto rin natin malaman ano mangyayari pagdating sa ating mga cooperation in the military realm, right? So let's look at the cooperation in the military realm, especially yung Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. So this is where siguro na medyo iba yung take ko. I think people get confused about where I stand on issues. You see, I stand on issues depending on how each issue is good for our country. So, pagdating sa mga issues ng foreign policy, etc., right? For instance, I have big disagreement with some of the progressive groups, right? I mean, I have disagreements with liberals because there are a lot of liberals na masyado naman pro-America. Hindi naman ako agree dyan na parang knight in shining armor ang tingin sa America. No. I think we have to make sure na it's an alliance that is mutually beneficial, each does its part, at hindi lang siya symbolic. But at the same time, nag-disagree din ako dun sa mga ibang progressive groups and the other groups on the other side na sinasabi, ay, tapusin na natin alliance sa America and then diplomacy na tayo. Katulad sinabi ko, walang kwenta yung ganyan thinking because wala ka ng leverage dealing with big powers like China, Russia, kung wala kang backup. Especially kung ganito pa rin yung sandatan, lakas natin, capacity natin. Hopefully in 5, 10, 15 years, we'll be in a stronger position. But we're nowhere close there, right? Kaya nga yung Japan and Korea, kahit napakalakas na bansa, napakayaman na bansa, they still have US bases in their country. I'm against US bases in our country. I don't think that's serving our interests. But having optimized alliance, I think that's something that can help us if we make the most out of our alliances. Not only with the US, but also with other partners, no? So, yun. So, you have to have a balanced point of view on issues. So, depending on what issues we talk about, no? So, tignan natin how this is gonna move forward. So, yeah. So, lots is happening. On the ICC, siguro we'll have a more detailed discussion on this, guys. As you can see, parang nagka-catch up lang muna tayo dito kasi ang tagal natin hindi nag-usap. Parang 3 days tayo hindi nag-usap ng mabuti, di ba? So I'm trying to just make sure na catch up tayo dito. We have a proper discussion. So ICC also, there was a interesting. So there was a statement. It looks like Attorney Harry Roque, former spokesman, presidential spokesman, was advising the president na hindi muna tayo sasali sa ICC. Even though, of course, because na-ratify yan ng Senate, some would argue that the Senate has had to have a say on this issue. Now, let's see more on that. But interestingly, some reports suggest, no, again, I have to double check this, that our National Security Advisor, again, another former professor of mine, so Dr. Clarita Carlos, Dr. Walden Bell, these have been my former professors. So just for the sake of clarity and disclaimer, of course, I know them personally. I've been dealing with them. And I have had disagreements with everyone, including my professors, former professors. You know, I'm not 100% in agreement with either Professor Carlos or Professor Walden Belli on every issue. But in fairness naman to Dr. Carlos, my former professor, National Security Advisor, it looks like she wants a much more nuanced stance doon pagdating sa issue ng domestic peace and order. So hindi niya gusto yung bara-bara lang. At nakita natin na medyo inaatake siya ng some of the more hardcore supporters of the former administrations, and they want the National Security Advisor to take a much more aggressive and tough stance on this. So, tingnan natin yan. Alright? Tingnan natin yan. Ano mangyayari dyan? Okay, bakit nagtatrending si Ella Cruz? Oh my goodness, ano na naman nangyari dito? Pasaway talaga mga... Grabe naman ang bully mga tao sa Twitter. Tama na yan. Hindi naman, actually, alam mo, eto na naman tayo, balikan natin ha. Oh, yan, hindi na naman tayo seryoso. In fairness, yung line ni Ella Cruz dun sa MIM, spoiler alert, diba? Ay, hindi. Actually, I'm not really spoiling it. As if naman. Yung line niya actually was not really the worst revisionist line. Yun lang. Sana hindi na lang siya nagsalita yung mga chismis kasaysayan. Sana wala siyang problema ngayon. Pero minsan hindi ko naintindihan ba't siyang ginagawang punching bag parati nung kabila. Huwag naman ganun. Yung kay Katips naman, speaking by the way of Dr. Clarita Carlos, I saw some reports that suggest she's actually more supportive of us rejoining the ICC. So malaking issue yan, of course, dun sa supporters ng dating presidente natin, si Pangulong Duterte. So we're seeing some internal discussions, debates, feisty discussions there. So i-follow natin dyan. But katulad ng sinabi natin, we may not 100% agree with Dr. Carlos or any academic turned cabinet secretary or politician, etc. But I have always confidence in people with solid academic background because they have a much more nuanced view of world. Hindi sila bara-bara lang, hindi lang sila tatalon sa mga bagay-bagay. Maayos po yung kanilang approach sa policy, at least compared sa mga tao na walang really background in public policy or governance analysis. Alright? Okay. Speaking of which, actually, I wanted to start on this note. Kaso I felt it's very important to be very clear about my disclaimers and all because there are many people who are out there to just twist what we're saying. Maraming mga bastos dyan, maraming mga haters lang dyan. So you want to make sure that, in every sense of the word, you don't give them extra ammunition. I mean, at the end of the day, kahit anong gagawin natin, may mga haters talaga. Anong gagawin natin? Fuego tayo, di ba? Ito na naman tayo. Okay. But going back here, speaking of bara-bara, what's interesting is, actually I wanted to make a comment, but kapon I was just in such a sober mode. Sabi ko parang wag ko muna patulan yan. But nakita niyo ba yung report na, syempre baha eh. Baha tayo ngayon, di ba? Grabe yung traffic. Isang pang dahilan na pagod ako na mag-meta or something like this because grabe yung traffic. Now, balikan natin ito. So may mga reports dyan, ay nako, na yung Dolomite Beach, ayan na, Tatay Legacy, ay potentially nag-contribute doon sa worsening of the flooding or baha situation. Let me just read itong reports, no. Itong report ni, "Uy, Joan, Tolenti, ano sinasabi mayabang? Hindi kaya ako mayabang. Sinabi ko lang fuego, masama ba? May masasabi ka ba dyan?" Ito, binabasa ko yung report ng Joseph Morong from GMA News. Mamaya. Okay, ito sinabi niya. MMDA says, o MMDA na yan ha, gobyerno na yan, hindi ang ano, hindi MIM ha, MMDA nagsabi. Floods in some streets in Manila last Friday was due to Dolomite Beach Project. Ayan tayo eh. Ayan na naman yung mga Dolomite Club. Buyaka siya. Sasabihin nila, bakit? Okay lang, baka sasabihin na, okay lang may baha. Basta hindi madumi yung Manila Bay. As if naman gusto natin madumi yung Manila Bay. Wala naman nagsasabi niyan. Ang sinasabi natin is there are better ways to deal with this. So balikan natin. Ito. Binabasa ko lang ha. Sabi ng MMDA, yung flood daw, isang dahilan dyan, yung flood sa isang ibang areas ng Manila was due to Dolomite Beach Project. Shoutout naman dyan kay Mark Gamboa, my co-vlogger na supporter ng Dolomite Beach. Ayan na. Okay na, Mark. Pag-usapan natin yan kasi yan ang problema kasi kung bara-bara. 3 main drainage systems could not discharge water into Manila Bay because DPWH put up a pumping station that have not been finished. The pumping stations are connected to a sewage system. Bakit? Okay, sewage system that would treat water before discharging into Manila Bay. Because of this, flood water had to be discharged via Balete Pumping Station into the Pasig River. Ayan tayo. So, in short, salamat dyan sa Dolomite Beach. Hindi na ayos talaga yung problema ng yung dumi dyan sa Manila Bay, yung problema dyan, ito talaga mga email defect lang ng mga ginawa. Ang problema pa, naging lumala pa pala yung problema ng flooding in some of the areas in Manila na sobrang prone naman sa flooding, etc. So, yun ang sinasabi natin, guys. Wala naman nagsasabi, diba? Sewage, right? Wala naman ito naman tayo. Wala naman tayong problema. Sewage. Wala naman tayong problema sa paglinis dyan sa Manila Bay. Wala naman tayong problema dyan, guys. Ang sinasabi lang natin, yung gagastusin mo na 200, 300 million peso, what is the best way to spend it? Because may na-allocate na po yung budget. At ngayon po nakikita natin na hindi lang potentially unsustainable itong White Sand Beach na yan, na konti lang part talaga at maduwing the rest. Potentially nagko-contribute pa ito sa flooding. And for me, bakit ko binabalikan tong issue na to? Hindi naman dahil hater tayo, right? Bumabalik tayo dito sa issue na yan dahil, ayan tayo. Dahil para sa akin, symptomatic ito at symbolic ito dun sa fundamental problems na meron tayo, guys. Which is, madali tayo napapadala sa PR. Madali tayo napapadala sa mga mga pa-feel goods lang. Mapa-good vibes lang. Madali tayo napapadala sa mga email defect, performative, populist antics. Iyang problema, guys, pagdating sa governance, kailangan mo tignan kung sustainable isang bagay, di ba? Yan nga parang gagastos ka ng big time ng isang time para lang pa-impress ka ng mga tao. Ang ganda ng memory nila sa'yo, pero bankrupt na yung family mo, wala na kayong pangbayad ng pagkain the next week. Ay, hindi naman pwedeng ganun, di ba? Kaya yun ang gusto ko sa amin mga Ilocano. Okay, no offense to others. Kahit naman siguro medyo economized kami, we make sure na pwede ka bumalik-balik sa amin over time because sustainable po yung hospitality namin. Okay, I'm not making ayan na, mapapagalitan naman tayo. So, aboy, Kasyay! Kasyay this style. Mabalin ka, okay. Pwede ka papalik-balik sa amin, pero sustainable kasi hindi kami bara-bara lang na ay, may bisita kami. Lahat ng manok natin, pakainin mo na. Lahat ng kalabaw natin, pakainin. And then, wala na. Next week, wala na. Wala nang pwede. Hindi naman kami ganyan. So, parang, ilang manok natin dyan? 5. Okay, pwede pang, ilang bang may itlog dyan? Okay, yung isa na ganito. Pwede na. Okay, so, hindi kami sobrang bongga. Hindi naman kami sobrang bongga. But, we make sure sustainable po yung hospitality namin para pwede ka bumalik sa amin over and over again. Speaking of which, of course, na-miss ko na si Lola. Malapit na po ang birthday ni Lola. This week na po yung birthday ni Lola. Maraming salamat dun sa mga nagbigay ng kanilang good wishes among others. Yan. So thank you very much for that, no. Na, so balikan natin itong issue ng Dolomite Beach. Sabi ko nga, the reason na binabalikan ko itong issue ng Dolomite Beach is because it's symptomatic and symbolic of yung more fundamental problems dun sa ating diskursong pampolitika at saka yung pananaw natin sa governance. Parang tingin natin sa governance, pwede tayo parang papogi lang, pwede lang tayo pa Imeldific, pa Dolomite Beach. But you have to look at things in ways that are more sustainable. Oy, by the way, kasama na natin dyan si Xiao Chua. Yun, may utang yan sa akin si Xiao. May utang yan. Xiao, Prof. Chua, tayo, podcast tayo. So thank you very much for joining us. And by the way, congratulations, may blue seal ka na. Taray, may blue seal na si Prof. Xiao Chua. So kanina nag-post tayo. I stand, of course, in solidarity with every Filipino who wants to speak truth to power, who is undaunted by harassment, frustration, legal harassment, political harassment, psychological harassment, all sorts of harassments. And sana naman, guys, if you have a platform, if you have a voice, if you have intellectual capital, please use it for the best. Ako naman, dun sa ating, humble, limited capabilities na meron tayo, ang ginagawa ko lang naman, guys, ito is, hindi ako pupunta dito para sabihin, etong politiko ay napakamasama, etong politiko ay perfecto. Wala naman perfectong politiko sa atin. Lahat ng partido may problema, lahat ng tao may pagkakulang, lahat ng administration may pagkakulang. Pero ang ginagawa po natin dito is, tinataas natin yung angkas tuloy. Antas. Ayan, tuloy, wala na. Na-traffic tayo, tuloy na angkas tayo. Oy, shoutout naman dyan kay George, yung CEO ng Angkas na kasama natin sa Korea the other week. No, sabi ko, ang trabaho talaga ng public intellectuals or trabaho ng mga, let's say, educator vloggers katulad natin, guys, is, eto guys, kailangan natin na itaas ng konting antas ng discussion. O, sige, magpalamig ka muna, Prof. Chua, pero may utang ka sa akin, balikan kita. Eto, talagang si Prof. Chua, talagang in demand yan over the past weeks or so. But I'm very, very glad na people like Professor Chua, people like Professor Ambeth Ocampo, very good friends of ours, are getting the kind of attention, support, love that I think they deserve. Kasi sa tingin ko talaga, medyo na-underestimate po at na-underappreciate po yung contribution ng ating mga totoong historiador, no? Hindi yung mga nakikiuso lang kung sino in power, no? Wag naman ganun. Pero yung mga totoong historiador who are doing it really for the sake of it. All right? And the sake of what? The sake of contributing to public education. Ito guys, isa sa pinakagusto ko sa mga totoong historiador, ito hindi ko sinasabi yan kasi andito si Prof. Chua kanina, yung integridad nila, guys. Yung integridad nila, I know what they're doing really is for the sake of the country. I know ginagawa nila yan kasi yun ang sinasabi na kanilang ng konsensya. Now, I really suggest you guys to read yung biography ni Socrates. I just finished the biography of Socrates the other week by Paul Johnson, another very favorite historian of mine. And it's titled something like Socrates, something like a philosopher for our times. Really read it. It's pretty short. It's a very, very beautiful biography, really inspirational. And of course, Socrates is one of my heroes because one of the things that Socrates always tried to do was, pupunta siya dyan sa palengke, yung agora, kung saan-saan, sa City Hall, tapos kausapin niya kahit sino in a non-judgmental way. Hindi na sabi, ay, ikaw, na-disinformation ka, ikaw, hindi ka nag-aral na mabuti, ikaw, hindi hindi siya ganun eh. Through dialectical procedures, he would make people realize na what they think they know is not really the case, that they have to research more about something and have constant thinking about it. So, kaya yun nga at si Socrates, his life was simple. He didn't even have shoes, right? He had very bare clothes, etc. So, he never did anything for material gains. Katulad ng mga tinatawag na sophists. Ito yung mga bolero, katulad ng mga bolerong lawyers, ganun, nung panahon niya. And one of the things I appreciate, whether it's with Ambeth, especially with Xiao Chua, a lot of good academic friends and colleagues I have is that, you see, simple lang pa umuhay nila. Wala silang arte, wala silang production team, wala silang, alam mo na, mga pabongga-bongga. They just do it very simple. Tingnan niyo naman guys yung mga natin. Tingnan niyo naman guys yung mga, kami, tingnan mo. Okay, sige, I'm sure marami kayong sasabihin ukol sa akin. Alam ko na. But tingnan nyo guys, wala kaming production team. Simple lang kami. Wala kaming biglang video na napakaganda. No, I just put it here in front of me and then I'm saying everything. No notes, no preparations. The only notes I have is here. And by the way, most of the time I don't even read it. It's really, it just comes from our heart. And yun ang gusto ko talaga. At saka yung isang reason na gusto ko rin yung mga katulad nila, Xiao Chu, etc. Again, I'm not saying this because andito si Xiao, is because yung effort no na ipamahagi yung mga medyo komplikado no na mga teorya, mga diskusyon in ways na relatable sa masa in every sense of the word. Actually guys, interesting nung isang araw. Kasi 'di ba nag-MMA tayo. Pumunta lang ako dun sa isang shop. Mamaya mag-shoutout ako kay Kuya. Kasi wala silang discount. Binigay sa akin. So, hindi ko kayo shoutout. Okay. Ayan tayo eh. No. Bibili ako ng Muay Thai shorts. Kasi napansin nyo na nag-turning kicks ako sa Taekwondo. Nakita niyan? Okay. I actually can kick even better than that. Alright? That's not an easy kick. I mean, it took years of perfecting that. So, pumunta ako para bumili ng shorts na Muay Thai para mas perfect. Hindi mainit. I can do the turning kicks, flying kicks, all of those things. Kaya pa rin natin kahit zadi na tayo. And then bigla, sa taas pa si Kuya, biglang bababa siya. Out of nowhere. Oh, sir, may meta ba tayo mamaya? I mean, just like that, out of nowhere. Sir, may meta ba tayo mamaya? Tapos, siguro depende kung may discount ka. Ayan tayo. Walang discount. Hindi tayo nakalusot. You know, I really like those moments. You know, like, you just randomly bump into people and then they say, Sir, may meta ba tayo mamaya? May discussion ba tayo mamaya? And they appreciate it. Now, I know na marami tayong mga haters or mga tao who have legitimate criticism. Katulad ng, Sir, ang sabog naman minsan yung meta mo. You talk about 4, 5, 6 different things. But in fairness naman to me, sometimes naman focus yung discussions natin. But my point is, we have to have this culture of talking about difficult issues in a seamless way, in a relaxed way, at saka sa isang lingwahe na maintindihan ng lahat at ma-appreciate ng lahat. You know, one of the best compliments I got in my life, and believe me, I'm not fishing for compliment as much as I used to nung kabataan ko. Medyo tumanda na tayo, so medyo mas secure na tayo sa sarili natin. Of course, all of us go through insecurities. We need some support, affirmation. But one of the things I really appreciated was like, again, may isang beses na randomly I was just walking somewhere and then someone said, Prof, kayo ba yung nag-analyze ng ganito? Opo. Ayun pala, ang simple lang pala yung issue na yan. So actually, in context, the guys was UNCLOS, no? United Nations Convention Law of the Sea. Ayun lang pala yung sinasabi nila, territorial sea, ito pala yung contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone. So I tried to explain that in a very simple way. Ito po yung territorial sea, 12 nautical miles. Ito po yung pwede natin gawin. Ito yung parang sabihin natin, this is your garden. And then ito po yung contiguous zone, just outside your door. It's something like that. And then this is like the main road, the exclusive economic. Parang the high seas is just like highway. Wala akong karapatan na nangyari dyan. So, by using these metaphors, you simplify supposedly technical difficult issues. Because ito, as much as I appreciate public historians, public intellectuals, whether it's Lelo Claudia, our good friends, whether it's Xiao Chua, it's Ambeth Ocampo, a lot of great people, Jail Cornelio, Nicole Corato, brilliant young generation people who talagang give me hope about the future of our country in many ways. You know, the other thing talaga, ayan na-distract na ako, ang dami kong iniisip na sabay-sabay. Ay nako, anyways. No, I mean, ang thing ko kasi ganito ang problem ko is, again, I'm not generalizing, but I'm saying the problem with a lot of academics, not everyone, a lot of academics is that, sa tingin nila, pag gumamit ka ng komplikadong lingwahe, gumamit ka ng, of course, hindi mo maiwasan. Sometimes you have to use certain technical terms, diba? Hindi naman pwede lahat i-simplify mo, diba? I mean, you try to simplify, but at some point, yung mga viewers mo should also do their assignment. But one of the things I really appreciate about a lot of this young generation of scholars is that hindi nila parang they don't wanna say to the people na parang we're too good for you to explain this to you. Diba? Tapos, as much as possible, ina-avoid yung jargons. Because napansin ko dun sa ibang academics is, minsan, feeling ko di rin nila nag-gets yung sinasabi nila. Tapos, parang dinadaan na lang sa jargon yan You know, I noticed that, guys. I noticed that even in like, mga vlogging cars, or mga vlogging ng mga computers, etc. Parang sabi ko, ano pinagsasabi na ito? Hindi naman ganyan yung CVC technology. Ano sinasabi na ito? Hindi naman ganyan yung hybrid technology. Parang ganyan. Kasi syempre may konting alam naman tayo sa buhay, di ba? So parang feeling ko kinukomplikado lang niya because hindi niya gamay at gusto niya pa-profound, something like that. So, I'm really glad that there are a lot of those people. Yun lang. Mas natutuwa ako ngayon dahil especially, so dito siguro ito yung positive unintended consequence ng MIM and Katips. Well, Katips has intended positive consequences, but a lot of this propaganda-ish, denialist, revisionist works, I'm not talking about Katips obviously, is that it has mobilized and it has jolted a lot of our academics out of their ivory towers. And I really, really appreciate that. I really like that. And I want more and more people to get involved. And one of the things I realized, guys, is that when you make an effort to explain complicated things in a simple way, yung curiosity ng tao ay lalong naging malalim. No? And you could see they want to ask questions, etc. Now, alam natin may mga nag-criticize sa atin na, sir, parang sa dulo ng discussion nyo, may mga question pa lumulutang, ganyan. Baka pwede kayong magpa-assignment, pagka-reading assignment, sabi, mag-enroll na kayo sa classroom ko, di ba? Kung ganun, di ba? So, yun. So, yung mga iba, gusto mag-graduate school, baka pwede silang, or yung mga, so I'll be teaching graduate and undergraduate, so in the coming weeks and months, God willing, including one in a public university, our premier national university, and then one, of course, is still in one of our good, great private universities. So if you want real assignments and all, come to our classroom. But this is the best we can do, guys. For free lang yun. You can just come here, just watch us for free. Now, of course, natutuwa tayo na meron kayong suporta in different ways. Moral support, psychological support, sweet messages you send us. It really gives us a sense of inspiration and encouragement. Yung mga stars na binibigay nyo, salamat. Pwede natin gamitin yan sa birthday ni Lola. Pwede natin gamitin yan dun sa bagong damit ni Picasso, yung mga ganon. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So yun lang. So, I know mga 3-4 days na tayo na nag-uusap na mabuti. Mga 3 days lang naman. So, I just wanted to make sure na don't worry, guys. I'm trying to keep on top of everything. And please, tuloy-tuloy sana itong discussion nyo. And don't worry, yan, kanina dito si Professor Chua. Hopefully, mag-organize kami ng podcast namin. I'm also trying to organize with others. The other thing kasi busy rin sila Prof. Chua at saka Prof. Ambeth also, I think, with the the funeral of former President Ramos, etc. So I understand them. But hopefully in the coming days, the schedule will lighten up. I'm also trying to bring in a number of actors, artists, celebrities who are also politically inclined. I mean, yeah, if that's the proper term. Or medyo my political consciousness level. So don't worry, guys. We'll try to bring in other people para hindi naman kayo maboard lang sa akin. But in the meantime, pasensya na kung chismisan tayo, marami tayong pinag-usapan. What I'm trying to do here, guys, is I'm saying, don't worry, I'm trying to keep on top of many things, right? Many issues. And please, guys, all right? Please, guys, try to read also. Kasi no matter how much I try to explain things, minsan mas madali ma-explain na sa bagay in writing format. Kasi in writing format talaga, it's distilled, it's concise, it goes through editing process, malinis yung labas. So guys, please, baka na-excite kayo dun sa mga meta namin. Sometimes, of course, nakikita nyo talaga, pagod tayo, eye bags, yan. So, I might not be as lucid as I want to be. Maybe I'm not as hyper as I want to be. But, when I write something, I really give it all. I really pour myself into my work, no? Meraki, that's the Greek term for that, no? You passion work, right? So, please, don't forget to also read also, guys, yung mga works natin. And then, ayan, Mitch Canoy, wag naman tayo pa-walk-walk. Ako nga alam nyo, ako pa nga inaatake yung mga walk-walk na pa-walk-walk na iba dyan. I've been criticized by all sides. Not because I want to fight with all sides, because, guys, hindi ako naniniwala dun sa static way of thinking. And hindi rin ako naniniwala in any kinds of categorical judgments. And as I said, if you're gonna judge or assess a certain situation, do it sincerely, but make sure na hindi mo rin nakakalimutan yung sarili mo mga biases and preferences, etc. Kaya sabi ko always, I have a clear bias. And what is my bias? My bias is for facts. My bias is for maximally possible objective analysis, right? My bias is for a pluralistic, inclusive society, right? My bias is for a proactive trade and industrial policy. My bias is for the national interest. So I have a bias, but it's a good bias as far as I know. Now, if you have a better bias than me, then let's go and discuss it. All right? So, salamat. Thank you very much for that. Thank you also kay Elizabeth Cabrera. I'll tell you guys, hindi ako nagpapa-guilty sa inyo. There were times that we did meta, there were times we did 2 or 3 metas a day. Like literally, once I'm finished with the meta, I go to my bedroom and lie down, I faint out of exhaustion. Etong lalo yung mga times na nag-3-in-1 ako, tapos yung sobrang hyper ako. And then, sa dulo, baksak talaga. Like literally, I fall asleep because wala nang energy sa system ko. So I have to sleep an hour para lang I have some energy to move forward and do my other works. No, but that just tells you guys how much I get excited with our discussions at commentaries nyo. Right? And then, wag din kayo guys mag-alala. Of course, unfortunately, may mga trolls tayo, may mga tao dyan who say all sorts of horrible things for different reason. Out of ignorance, out of misunderstanding, out of, well, yung iba, mukhang may budget, diba? But don't let yourself be intimidated by that. Yun lang sa atin, guys. You're always gonna get some heat, especially when you're doing something right? From any side, no? But don't let that discourage you. Now, at the same time, guys, ingatan din natin yung ating mental health. Hindi lang sa pamamagitan ng Dolomite Beach. Pero there are healthier ways to do it, right? And ako naman, so please guys, don't be surprised if in the coming weeks, coming months, etc., we'll have discussions that go beyond the realm of our normal Philippine politics or even geopolitics. I'll try to discuss other things. Malay nyo, baka MMA analysis na naman tayo dyan. And you see it. Mixed martial arts is something I really do, right? I can do all the kicks and punch and combination of that. So hindi lang ito pa-cute, alright? It took me years to reach that level. And I'm still not there, okay? I don't know jiu-jitsu. My boxing is definitely not there. But my foundation tayo. And also, since I'll be on travels, in God willing, in different places, different regions, etc., we'll try to also discuss the history of different parts of the world, no? So think about it like this. Vlogger, but with a heart, and vlogger with a little bit, with research. Yun talaga medyo may big picture analysis, yung long jury na sinasabi natin. Alright? So I know medyo sabog tayo today. We discussed so many things. I mean, you could see it there. My Dolomite Beach. Binalikan ko rin yung issue ni between yung hidwaan or yung mga back and forth between the Vice President and former Congressman Bello. Discussing natin yung situation sa Taiwan, yung latest. Of course, if you want more detailed analysis of the Taiwan situation, and then yan, yung mga pinost natin. On TikTok po, lampas na tayo sa 500,000 views doon sa mga Taiwan analysis na pinost natin. And then dito rin sa ICC, balikan ko kayo because I have to go deep into this. And don't worry, I'll be inviting some experts, international law experts or legal experts to also discuss ICC and all. So please lang guys, alright, vlogger with the heart, alright. And also on West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, there's more to discuss. So please guys, don't jump to conclusions. If you're coming to my meta to just reaffirm your pre-established biases and prejudices against another party, meaning pumunta ka lang dito to get a hate party against another side, I'm sorry, I'm gonna disappoint you a lot of times. Sometimes I'm gonna make you happy because minsan naiirita na talaga ako, di ba? If some people are or some side is beyond the pale. But if you're coming here to expect every day I'm gonna feed you junk food of hatred and self-affirmation, and and your selection bias, reinforcement, no, I'm sorry, I'm gonna disappoint you. And I don't care that I'm gonna disappoint you because hindi yun po yung trabaho natin dito sa mga metas natin. We started this meta last year, December. So hopefully soon mag-anniversary na tayo dito. But in the meantime, while we're building this community of discussion, let me also say that I was very encouraged when nabasa ko dun sa biography ni Socrates. So this is the biography, let me show you pala. Now, one of the best tools of Socrates was his sarcasm or sense of irony. Right, so ito yung book niya. Alright. So Socrates, a man for our time. Sorry, not a philosopher. This is the book by Paul Johnson. Really book. Madali lang siyang basahin. Marites to. Madali lang siyang basahin. So please check that. And then there's a more classic one on Socrates. And to be honest, guys, I did not try to intentionally copy Socrates or anyone like that. I was just super surprised that apparently Socrates was doing his own version of meta In the Greek times, yung sarcastic but engaging, nagpapatawa, self-deprecating, tinatroll siya, he trolls people back, etc. But of course, aminado ako, unlike Socrates, medyo we care about the fuego and all. But Socrates was something totally different, alright? But anyway, alright. Oh, syempre, millennial ako. Pasensya na. Millennial kami. Millennials, certain things really matter to us. Okay? Not too much, but just enough. I've been awake since 7, 8 a.m. Konti lang tulog natin. So, I have had enough coffee. So, hindi na ako nagkape. Energy drink lang ako ngayon. So, sorry if the beginning of the meta was not as energetic as you hope. But I also had to make certain disclaimers crystal clear. Because it's okay to be misunderstood. It's normal. But you don't want to give certain people unnecessary ammunitions. Because there's some people there who are really out there to just misunderstand you and to misrepresent you. All right, so let me be absolutely clear that whoever I interview, whether it's Prime Minister Mahathir I interviewed, whether it's a senator, whether it's a professor, Professor Berlio, whatever, right? When I interview them, their points of view are expressed on my platforms, but not necessarily reflect my point of view. So my point of view is much more nuanced, etc. And as I said, hinintay naman natin, guys, na mag-express din ng opinion si Vice President Sara Duterte, her take on the issue. So we also read that in the interest of fairness, right? At least journalistic fairness for that matter. Yes. So yeah. So if you want to understand bakit ang gulo ng meta natin minsan, etc., let me tell you, I've been so encouraged after reading this biography of Socrates. There's another biography of Socrates that I'll also recommend to you guys, which talks about Socrates as a moral philosopher and how revolutionary he was during his time, right? And Socrates also had a lot of influence on the development of the Christian notion of soul, etc. So we can go to that. It's much more complicated. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest weapons of Socrates was not only was he not judgmental and makulit, super makulit siya, but he was sarcastic a lot of times. But it was a sarcasm that actually got people engaged. It piqued their interest. And in our own little ways, of course, I'm not saying I'm Socrates or something like that. In our own little ways, medyo yun po yung ginagawa natin, right? Dialogical, dialectic, makulit, alaskador, di ba? But please don't misunderstand yung mga alaskador, sarcastic moments natin as some ego trip, power trip, schmuckery, all right? No, we're not here to do schmuckery, right? We're here to do the kind of engaging discussions that unfortunately we're not going to get in many platforms, whether it's a lot of mainstream media, where I actually work also, or also alternative media, where it's a den of poisonous disinformation and a bunch of opportunists and lowbrow agitators. All right, I'll just keep it there. I can use more adverbs and adjectives and verbs, but let's not go there. All right. And yes, sewage. Sorry about that. I mistakenly said. Okay. Anyway, so mga ka-Dolomite, please lang. Remember, what we're trying to do here is exactly the opposite of Dolomite. Gusto natin linisin talaga ng maayos ang Manila Bay. And it's the same, and that's a metaphor for what we're trying to do in the realm of ideas, right? Gusto natin ayusin yung antas ng discussion by not further, fanning the flames of hatred, disinformation, and, narcissism, etc. All of these things we're seeing online, all right? And yes, schmuckery is not something... There's a worse version of that. Ginagamit ni Joe Rogan. I'm not gonna use that. I'm gonna use schmuckery. I think is a better version. Alright, pasensyahan na lang, okay? Thank you very much. And thank you dun sa mga talaga nag-tune in sa atin. I know we still have a problem with notification. I know some of you are still not getting notification. I don't know what's the problem. Please check on Facebook because since elections, since May, April, nag-change ng Facebook. I think some of their... Nakikita ko, minsan nagkakaproblema din tayo. They change some of their configuration. So, sometimes you don't get notification, etc. Kaya may lag tayo in terms of people coming in. Usually, we have thousands, right? Or at least 1,000 or 2. So, I think we have a notification issue. So, paki-check lang. Maybe you can favorite the page or just do a subscription for a price of less than a Starbucks coffee. Then, I think that will make sure na you're automatically updated, right? So, please, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Or if you don't want, it's okay, fine. Okay, Arnel David, kakasabi ko lang, huwag kayong, umayos kayo dito, alright? Mabait ako, pero kung bastos kayo, I'm gonna call you out, alright? And swerte nga, I'm just calling you out, alright? Get the hell out of here kung bastusan lang gagawin nyo, okay? Alright, thank you very much. Now, let me say thanks to people. Maraming mga sumusuporta sa atin. I know, let me apologize if today was not as in-depth as our analysis in the past. I know one of the things I noticed that maraming natuwa dun sa film analysis natin. I think many people were surprised but by how I analyzed things using the Dostoevsky arc of drama, right? Using the Parasite as an example, which clearly was inspired by Dostoevsky's The Demons, etc. I hope you appreciate that. I try to be as fair and objective as possible in analyzing them. Please also check my Philippine Daily Inquirer column today, whereby I talked about the Kulturkampf and the culture wars in the Philippines by juxtaposing what Katips and MIM were discussing. And the interesting thing I noticed there is that none of them really focus on the Dilaw Yellow Ribbon movement. Each of them talk about the other sides, right? So maybe the Yellow Ribbon movement needs its own director and movie sometime soon. So let's see, Joel Lamangan, whoever is going to do that. Let's see, moving forward. All right? Thank you very much. Let me say thank you. Andyan pa rin yung troll na yan. O, kayo nang bahala dyan now. Kayo nang bahala dyan now. Ayan na naman tayo. Let me say thanks to our friends joining us from all around the world. Salamat dyan kay DS Lianes, joining us from Turin. Grazie, Bel. Okay, Mitch Tengcho, thank you very much for your continued commitment to public education. Appreciate you. Thank you for your generic thank you because wala akong masyadong detailed discussion today. So that's very kind of you. Thank you kay Mike Raid for your support. Kay Arlene Milan, thank you for sharing your knowledge daw. Again, sorry if today I didn't share as much knowledge or detailed analysis, but para nakakamusta lang ako. Parang kamusta na kayo dyan? Baka nakalimutan nyo na ako, alright? More like that, nagparamdam lang. Salamat kay Melanie Marnie joining us from Australia. Thanks, mates. Thank you kay Christian Medina also. As always, thank you kay Eden Olonan, also a very big supporter of ours. Maraming salamat as always, Eden. You've been so kind. Thank you kay Jenaline Gitpa to Marivic Malari. Yan, si Ma'am Jocelyn. Sabi niya, for Lola's birthday, good health and God bless her. Oh, thank you so much for your support. Ayan na. Sisingilin na ako ni Lola. Lola! Madam Dama! Sigapay! Don't worry. Sigapay. Sige, ipakita ko yung gift ni Lola ha. Pag nakaipon tayo dito. At saka yung gift ni Picasso. Thank you very much kay Ma'am Jocelyn. Very kind of you. Thank you kay Tered Dang Sawai, DG Sawai. Thank you so much for your support. Tina Berduque, Bong Tunachao. Tunachao. Sorry, I'm pronouncing it more like Portuguese. Tunachao. Ito pong 3-in-1 prof para ma-continue sa discussion. Thank you. Thank you kay Ria Saltiga, kay Fanny Miguel. Yan, si Ma'am San Miguel, very kind. Riza Oraya, si Maria Esmeralda. Advance happy birthday to your Lola. Deserve niya talaga all the love and well wishes, of course. All the Lolas in the world, happy birthday to you kung kailan man yan. Armin Revano, thank you very much kay Nikki Kate, kay Divina Ayukawa, is a Japanese, tomarigato. Si Ray Cadiz, yan, talagang yan. Si Ma'am Jocelyn, as always, very, very generous and supportive. Carlo Limbaga, thank you so much. Michael Uy, yeah, sewage. Sorry, I mistakenly said. Yeah, of course I meant sewage, right? Kasi parang nakasulat din, parang sewerage or something like that. So parang I think may typo dyan, kaya naguluhan ako. Thank you kay Rizani. Thank you kay Margaret Rodriguez. Ayan, can Xi Jinping daw afford to wage war ngayon? Yes, that's exactly the point we said, right? Na magkakaroon ng, not election, but selection later this year. There's a slowdown in their economy. But the problem is that, as much as that's my stance, and I've argued that he cannot afford a full-scale confrontation, there are two ways to argue against there are two ways to argue against myself, right? One is to say that's precisely because he might be desperate. That's why, a cornered beast is more dangerous, right? They always say. The other thing is unintended escalation. So even though pakitang gilas lang ginagawa ng China, if the exercises are so large and aggressive, accidents could happen, whether with the Taiwanese forces, whether with the Americans or others. Kaya nakakabahala din yan. Not to mention Japan has accused China of dropping some missiles also in their waters. So yun ang fear ko dito. It's more like unintended conflict rather than reckless flirtation with World War III, right? But as I said, sometimes a cornered beast is more dangerous. The violent lashes of a cornered beast, sometimes is much more scary. Case in point, Putin's invasion of Ukraine. I think Putin really feels isolated. Probably is running out of ideas in terms of what to do with Russia, etc. The invasion of Ukraine was his way of lashing out, and that's why it's scary eh. Kaya let's hope hindi naman too desperate yung situation dyan. Alright? Prof, have you seen the documentary about the internet trolls in the Philippines? Ang dami naman mga documentary. Melanie Gurap. Sorry. Okay, she corrected it. Ano yun? Sewerage? Right, so anyways, okay. Yeah, okay, hindi ako... I mean, isa sa mga pinasaka doon nung nag-exam ako for college was electrical engineering, but I really started pre-med. But anyway, civil engineering, environmental engineering, mga ganun, hindi ko talaga ano yan. So, sorry na lang. Okay, sige, I'll have to research on that. Thank you for pointing that out. Is paper title an insult, sabi ni Wen Corey? No, that was the kind of that was the kind of criticism of China in the 1970s and 80s. Na ang laki ng army nila, but they're not really as lethal and organized. And then now they're saying parang paper bear naman ng Russia. I think that's quite too dismissive. But the point is, China has yet to show whether they can wage a 21st century warfare at the highest levels. So yun din, tignan natin ano nangyari dyan. Alright, so again, thank you so much dun sa mga friends natin na sumasali sa atin from all around the world. Gitnang Silangan pa, among others. Thank you kay Bibo Nagi. Ayan, also for your support kay Natasha Tamin. Looking forward daw sa meta natin kay Joko Marie Cordero, Adrian Dandan. Thank you so much dun sa mga nagbibigay ng support sa atin. Sorry, hindi ko pa na yung iba. Kay Immortal Nile Live, sabi ni Senan Makalalat, sana wala sa China or Taiwan ng magkamali na maski maliit to start the... Yeah, yun nga eh. There's no room for error talaga, Senan eh. I mean, that's our... Kasi ganito, it's just basic game theory, right? It's just basic laws of physics. The more ships, vessels, the more missile tests you do there, the more aircrafts you send there. Like, sabi nga natin the other week, diba? China sent like 50 aircrafts, 49 fighter jets and aircrafts into the ADIZ of Taiwan, yung airspace nila, air defense identification. There's so much room for mistake there. Kaya God forbid, may mga crazy dyan. So far, hindi. But still, dapat hindi tayo kampante dyan. Renato Aricheta, Tonete, thank you very much. Ann Lim, Sarah Gonzalez, Sheila Liavore. Yan. So, katulad ng sinabi natin, guys, na-sanction din pala si Pelosi. But the funny thing is, na-sanction din daw yung family niya. Tapos sabi niya ng apo niya, ano yung sanction man sa akin? TikTok account ko. Wala akong TikTok daw, sabi niya. Alright, so medyo palaban din pala yung grandson niya. So thank you very much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Now, just on I see many questions on Taiwan. Maybe we have to do a proper analysis again on Taiwan tomorrow or in the coming days. I'll try my best, guys. I'm also working on some long papers din kasi. And then, also I have some final edits to do dun sa manuscript ng China book ko. May new book ako sa China, God willing, na nalabas. So don't worry. We'll have more discussion. So today, admittedly, medyo all over the place tayo, but it's my Socratic method. No? Medyo magulo tayo ng ganun. But tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be more Aristotelian, right? More focused, systematic, etc. Today, more dialogical, right? So, as you notice, we shift between the Aristotelian and the Socratic method. That's what we really do in this place. So, everything we do here, hindi siya out of nowhere, right? There's a process behind this. There's a heuristic, right, pedagogical philosophy behind it. And sometimes it's more pronounced than not. So please, guys, don't misunderstand na nanggugulo lang tayo, nagwawalan tayo. Hindi may ginagawa tayo dito, alright? And at the same time, kasi minsan may mga, we discuss hot button issues. So some clarifications, some tie back, etc. is very important, alright? Now, sabi ni Wen Corey, my point is, okay, you can say something about Nancy Pelosi's intentions, like, was this last hurrah before, she gives up the speakership, etc., or really she was there giving them moral, psychological, and strategic support that Taiwan was in it. But my point is, it also depends on China. The ball is now in China's court. How far they want to escalate this, right? And in fairness naman to ASEAN, their statement over the weekend, sabi nila, they don't want further escalation. So they didn't blame Nancy Pelosi. And they implicitly told China, now, the ball is in your court. So wag mong dapat sana hindi malala yung sitwasyon at you have a lot of say in where it goes. Kaya nag-walk out yata yung si Wang Yi, yung Chinese foreign secretary, not once but twice for different reasons, including in response to the Japanese foreign minister's speech. Alright, as you can see, medyo na-drain na ako. Pahinga muna ako konti. I have to work again later tonight. Thank you very much, guys. Catch up tayo again tomorrow in the coming days, God willing, if my time. So we'll try to have more focused, detailed discussions. I'll work out what's the best for each day, no? Siyempre gusto natin yung may element of evenmentiel, meaning we go with what's the hottest, etc. But we also want to have lingerie, long-term structural analysis para mas tumaas yung level ng discussion natin. But today was a Socratic day. Medyo magulo, medyo dialectical, medyo all over the place. But in a way, it reminded us why we're doing our meta. And thank you so much for giving your time. I know makulit tayo, madaldal tayo. So I really appreciate it. Salamat din dun sa mga ibang mga colleagues, friends natin who are doing their best para umakyat yung antas ng discussion sa ating bayan. You're free to disagree with me. You're free to post your counter arguments. Please go ahead. Pero please, wag bastusan. Once ganyan ka, pagsabihan kita, and I'll deal with you. If you're disrespectful, I'll treat you the way you deserve it, right? And at some point, in a lot of cases, I'll have to block you because wala tayong time for basura dito. Alright? This is a safe space, supposedly, for proper discussion. Alright? Thank you very much. God bless. Have a good day po. Hasta mañana.